Hi YouTube. Welcome to Shimmergirltalks. Today's topic, have you ever seen that meme on Facebook about grandma wore this duster and had grandpa taking care of everything, all the bills. While you women are out here thinking that Victoria's Secrets is the secret, but one thing that I've noticed. Oh, and before I get into that, so when I would see those memes online about, grandma just had to wear this duster and had grandpa, paying all the bills, whatever, you always have the same types of women. The comments would be predictable. Yeah, grandpa did all of that, but he was cheating. Yeah, grandpa did all of that, but grandma was unhappy. Grandma was miserable. Grandpa was beating on her. It's always this go to worst case scenario when it comes to, anytime like, something positive about marriage comes up or the nuclear family, or men being responsible or even women being responsible, it's always a negative pushback. And I notice it within our community more than anybody. So now, in the case of my grandparents, they were together almost 70 years. She died first, 2012, and grandpa died in 2015. No, grandma died in 2010. Grandpa died in 2015. And grandpa worked at Ford Motor Company for almost 38 years. It was 30 plus years, I know. And he took care of a wife and 12 children. A wife and 12 children. That's how it was back then. Doesn't mean that everything was perfect and peachy keen. No. Grandma and grandpa had their issues back in the day. Now, of course, by the time, as the grandkids started coming along, I'm sure kinks had been worked out and, people had mellowed out and stuff like that. But it's like in today's generation, you have people expecting marriage to be 100% perfection, 24/7. No one factors in their ups and downs in marriage. You're two imperfect people living a life together. There are going to be, times when things aren't perfect, but you have to work together. But that's not typical. That's not really what this video is about. This video is about, you have some women wondering where these men that take care of everything is. And when you look at, and I've said this in previous videos, but when you look at the amount of women who literally get on top of a mountain and shout, I'm independent. I don't need a man. Marriage is misery and drudgery. Married women are unhappy. I don't need a man. I have this education and I'm making this money. I got 3 kids by 3 different men and I'm doing it all by myself. People are looking at that, including the men. They're looking at that like, okay, well, hey, well, more power to you then. And think about it. This has been going on for, I would say, at least 40 years, more than 40 years, because I was a kid back then. So, I didn't, really understand the whole dynamics of marriage and stuff like that. But I will say that was around the time when you still had marriages, particularly in the Black church back then. I do remember that. Now, my mother was a divorcee, and in that time, now we lived in a community of predominantly Black people, mostly single mothers from what I remember. And I think that my stepfather, who was my brother's father, he was the only man that I remember, coming around the neighborhood to see his children, and, myself included, because at that time I didn't know he wasn't my father. I didn't find that out till I was 14, but that's another story. And So I remember, like, some of the neighborhood children kind of laughing, because my mother, would, wouldn't come into the house. He would just, come by the front window to talk to my brothers, to pick them up to take them to the circus or, whatever. And I remember one of my classmates who was in my neighborhood, he was like kind of laughing about that. And I was thinking to myself, but at least they have a dad. At least we have a dad. Like I said, I didn't know he wasn't my father, until later. But I remember saying, where's your father? But anyway, neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is, somewhere along the line, we got to the point where we said that fathers were not needed in the home. We don't need you in the home. We don't want you in the home. And why our community just eats that up like it's the best tasting food ever, I have no idea. And the other day, so I was watching a video the other day, and there was this young lady, I don't even know who she is. And see, okay, before I get to that, I just want to say what so many people don't seem to realize is, in my opinion, the sexual revolution is what helped to further, take men out of the home and to, be able to skirt their responsibilities and stuff like that. Because when you have women saying things like, and I don't know if I said it in this video or not, everything be blurring together sometimes. But when you have women that's saying that they don't need a man, they don't want a man, I'm taking care of these children by myself, men, they were able to step back and say, okay, then, So fast forwarding, so I'm watching this YouTube video the other day, and if I remember, I might try to link it. Anyway, so this young woman was telling young women basically to be loose, be promiscuous, and I think the way I think about it is, do women not see what being promiscuous is really doing to them and society at large? Do you know promiscuity, in my opinion, is what created the F-boys? That's where F-boys come from. Because women were, saying, hey, I could be sexually free just like you. And we're equal. But the thing is, we're not equal because we're the ones that have the babies. So that's one reason, I strongly believe that's one reason why you have a lot of women that despise men, literally despise men, because men can go out there, plant their seed and just leave, never look back. Whereas a woman is stuck, trapped, she can get rid of it, and you know how. But notice I've never discussed, the Roe versus Wade, because I am pro-life, and I'll leave it at that. So I feel that's one reason why you have a lot of women that hate men, because men, they have the freedom that they wish that they had. Oh, I wish I could sleep with 100 men and not be judged for it. Oh, I wish I could sleep with 100 men and never get pregnant. Oh, I wish I could sleep with 100 men and there's still a Prince Charming, 7-figure, perfect in every way man waiting at the end of the road when I'm done with getting those notches in my belt. That's the real reason why so many women hate men, because they can't, do all of those things. But you might say, well, what does this have to do with what you were talking about, that old funky duster and blah, blah, blah? Well, it's a good chance, and I can't speak for all communities and every household and family, but the women of yesteryear were not like the women of today. Now, of course, you have some women who be like, as a matter of fact, there was this college graduate. It was on Facebook or Twitter or something. It was a few years back. I don't remember why she said this, but she was graduating college, and she had already walked across the stage, and she was like, and your grandma was a whore too, or a hoe too. And I remember thinking to myself back then, but why is that something to be proud of? Because the way I read what she was saying, she was promiscuous, and she was justifying it by saying everybody else's grandma was the same way. Everybody's grandma wasn't like that. Now, obviously, let me tell y'all something if you don't know. Back in the day, you had loose women, but those loose women knew their place. For the most part, they knew they weren't about to be wifed. Not wifed the way that they wanted to be wifed. And if they wanted to be wifed, they had to move to another town or somewhere who people that did not know their history. Fast forward to now. It is glorified and put on a pedestal to be promiscuous, but those same women who want to live that, they don't want to be judged for it. So I'm bringing all of this up, because, like I said, women are saying, well, grandma wore this and had grandpa paying all the bills. But there were two different dynamics back then. Men knew they had to provide and protect. Women knew that they were going to be in a home and rearing their children. Now, some of the things that I see in, when these comments come up is, well, that was never the case for Black women. Black women always had to work. Well, my grandma didn't. My grandma never worked a day in her life. Matter of fact, she told me she worked one day. She worked one day. And this is what she told me. She was handing out tracts on the street corner. She had been a Christian for a very long time. She handed out tracts. It actually wasn't until she was in her 60s, after her children were grown and out of the house, she started a ministry. Well, she started a ministry long before then, but once a week she was going to a radio station because she had a radio program back then, and I used to support it. I gave her, my tithes every week, to keep her supported. But the point is, grandma didn't have to work. My mother even didn't have to work. When she was with my stepfather, my mother didn't have to work. So somewhere between like my mother's time, you're looking at the 70s, to now, men started being pushed out of the home. And now, and that's something else I wanted to say. So husbands were being pushed out of the home. Now you have these Instagram models and these OnlyFans type women who are getting the bag, getting the money to either support them or support their children from just random men online. Whereas grandma's day, my mother's day, you got yourself a husband and your husband provided for you. But you have women today, as I say in previous videos and stuff, husband, I always do it like that, a husband. I don't want a husband. A husband for what? So he can control me? I'm not submitting to him. Please. But when you say those things, what you're saying is, then I want to be a single mother and do it all by myself. I wish I could look like an Instagram model with a big butt so I can, get my bills paid like that. Not me. I'm just talking about, how some of these women think out here. It's a different day. The women of grandma's day and my mother's day, women today, they couldn't live like that. They just couldn't. Which could be one of the reasons why the whole feminist movement took root. But one thing that I have noticed, it seems like every generation or every 10 years, so to speak, as, young ladies are growing up, you have a group of women that fight the power. I don't want to be subjected to no husband. I don't want a husband. I want my education, this, that, and the other. Then you have a generation after that. I want to be a wife, you know. I want a husband to take care of me and provide for me. And then the next generation after that, no, I'm strong and independent and I don't need a man to help me and this, that, and the other. But that was my message for today. Please check out my other videos, like, subscribe, comment, and I will talk to you later. Bye.